It seems like yesterday when I think back to the day I met him. With a notebook tucked under my arm and a new semester underway, I was an excited young person dreaming of becoming a top-tier designer in a college that was bursting with activity. And then there was Jake, all charisma and lofty aspirations, talking loudly about how one election might change the world. We had an instant connection as two driven individuals who just cared about our future. "Hey, you're in my intro to design class, right?" He'd inquired as he caught up to me on the campus walkway, exchanging huge smiles. With a cheeky edge to my voice, I shot back, "Yeah, that's me," attempting to make sense of it all. "I get it. But hey, if you ever need a study buddy or someone to run ideas by, I'm your guy." His confidence was extraordinary, nearly to the point where it was easy to forget he was just a student like myself. It was us against the world from that point on. He would often talk endlessly about political theories over coffee and textbooks, while I would scribble in the margins of my notes. As a team, nothing seemed insurmountable to us. "We're going to do really well, Anida. I promise." On those exhausting nights, he said, "You'll be designing national galleries, and I'll be right there, maybe as governor, making sure the arts get the funding they deserve." His eyes shone with a mix of ambition and naivete. "And what about the children? White picket fence. What is it?" I mocked, seeing his expression. He would gesture dismissively. "No, not for us. Plans are larger than this. When you can own the entire city, who needs a fence?" Everything was very romantic in the idealistic, carefree sense of youth. We had a little ceremony with only a few friends and relatives before we graduated. It felt appropriate, like we weren't simply getting married, but embarking on an adventure together. Being newlyweds, we had no limits. In a short period of time, Jake rose from assistant to aide to the governor to director of parks and recreation. It seems as though he was receiving new recognition or moving up the professional ladder every month. He was always the center of attention, shaking hands and kissing infants like a pro. It was different at home. "How was your day?" became our go-to opening line for discussions. He would say, "Busy as hell, meetings back to back." "How about you, sweetheart? How is your treatment in the design world?" I would shrug, seeming casual. "Oh, just another day of picking colors and convincing clients I know best." Though his eyes were always far away from mine, he would still laugh. Considering that we were both working hard, I didn't mind. I returned home one evening with my head spinning from closing a significant contract that would position our department as leaders in the field. I was worn out, and my shoulders hurt from carrying my laptop bag around all day. Jake was home already, something that was becoming less common these days. I sealed the deal with Johnson. The presentation went off without a hitch, I declared, attempting to share a small portion of my day and searching for a glimmer of mutual enthusiasm. Jake remarked, "That's nice, babe," without taking his eyes off the papers strewn all over the living room. "Listen, since today was less demanding, could you prepare dinner?" I barely had time for lunch because I had so many meetings back to back. Half off, I hesitated at the doorway. Lighter day kept repeating in my thoughts. More light? "Jake, we fought for 8 hours to get a deal that will increase our revenue for the whole year." When he did look up, he shrugged and met my eyes. "Yes, but are you really in the trenches all the time? All it takes is choosing colors and persuading others to agree with your viewpoints." The tone of dismissal hurt more than I thought it would. "Jake, it goes a little beyond that. We had a major victory with this." With a muttered, sure, he returned to his papers. "But can you actually manage dinner?" I'm worn out. His casual comments overshadowed my victory, leaving me with a bad taste in my mouth as I made my way to the kitchen. After a few weeks, the pattern persisted. At work, I was moving up the ladder and earning more money and responsibilities at every step. I had conflicting emotions the day I learned that my pay had exceeded Jake's. Knowing his mental state at the moment made me hesitant to tell him about it even though I wanted to. At last, during a dinner, I'd brought up the subject, making an effort to keep it light-hearted. It appears that I may be out-earning you this year with the new accounts I brought in. It's funny, huh? With an indiscernible grimace, Jake set down his fork. Are you serious? Is that the method you intend to discuss it? His tone perplexed me, so I scowled. Jake, bring what up? The news is good. It indicates that both of us are doing well. It isn't us, Anita. You are the one. I now have to figure out how to take charge. I can't let people believe I'm incapable of providing. Attempting to close the distance his comments had caused, I reached across the table. It's not a competition, Jake. Our money is set aside for our future. Shaking his head, he withdrew his hand. It's not really that easy. I think this is significant, but you don't comprehend it. His remarks were like a slap in the face, undermining not only my work, but also our collaboration. Jake, I felt like we were in this together. When did it start to focus only on you? Ever since I became the one left behind, he shot back, raising his voice. There you are, out-earning me now with your clever deals. What does that mean about me? It makes you my husband. I uttered in a forceful yet gentle tone, not my competitor. Jake snorted and got up quickly. I have to consider this. Consider exploring alternative options, perhaps one with a higher salary. I felt the distance grow as I watched him leave. It was about respect, understanding, and support, elements that were increasingly lacking in our conversations, rather than money or success. I turned over the conversation of the day as I lay in bed that night. We were sharing a roof, but our paths seemed to be leading us to different places entirely. Though I wasn't sure what or how at the time, I knew something had to give. All I knew was that I could not let his fears to control me or our pleasure. But resolving that, I was still puzzled by that puzzle. After 15 years of marriage, our life was an exhibit of external success, a gorgeous home, well-maintained vehicles, a few properties scattered throughout the city, and bank accounts that would make anyone jealous. However, not everything that shines is made of gold, and Jake felt that the shine was beginning to fade. After working for the Natural Resources Agency for a considerable amount of time, his career seemed to be stuck in mud, spinning its wheels but not moving forward. I would sit through another long, drunken evening listening to him yell, Anita, everything is rigged. The guys who can't distinguish a policy from a pancake are going to get the positions I deserve. It's all about who you know, or who you know. You know, he would complain while taking a swig. I did my best to provide answers rather than just a listening ear. Have you considered going out with someone? One evening, while clearing the dinner dishes and refilling his glass, I offered that a therapist would be of assistance. Jake struck the table with his fist, causing the silverware to fly. Anita, I don't need a shrink. The corruption and cronyism I have to deal with on a daily basis is the issue, not me. I pressed on, feeling the weight of his aggravation as my own. But maybe talking to someone could help you cope better or even strategize how to get around those obstacles. I said, will you just put it down? I am aware of my duties. It's the system that needs to change, not me. No matter how hard I tried, I was unable to get past his fury. So I concentrated on my career, which I could control. Leading my squad in international displays, I was creating waves. Major contracts were featuring my designs as their focal point. At work, I was valued and my opinions counted, which felt really fantastic. But Jake withdrew even further as I prospered. He stopped coming to work functions with me, especially the large, flashy ones where my accomplishments were on display. "Why don't you attend tomorrow night's gala?" One evening, I asked him, trying not to seem too serious. I would find great meaning in it. Additionally, the CEO will be present, so you might network. With a resolute expression on his face, Jake raised his gaze from his laptop. "And what's that?" "Remain motionless as all eyes acclaim you. These days, I think they only recognize me as Mr. Anita." "That is untrue." I responded with a stab of pain in my chest. "Jake, you are my spouse. They appreciate that you are an individual." He snorted and snapped shut his laptop. "Yes, Anita. I'm just the man who holds your handbag to them. I've got better things to do, so no thanks." I didn't want to admit how much it hurt. Although I was happy with my accomplishments, I wanted my spouse to be by my side and enjoy the achievement together, not feel jealous of it. I experienced a mixture of emotions when I put on my evening gown and glanced in the mirror the following day. My reflection revealed a woman who, while professionally fulfilled, lacked her husband's support in a big way on a personal level. I went alone, as I had started to do more often. The gala was a blur of congratulations, handshakes, and bright smiles. I accepted the accolades and spoke about my latest designs, but each time I saw a couple together, laughing or sharing a quiet moment, my heart ached. Returning home, I found Jake on the couch, a bottle in hand, not even pretending to have waited up. The clock was ticking past 9:00 p.m. as I rushed out of the conference room, my phone dead from the day's back-to-back meetings. My mind was racing with the discussions we'd had, but a nagging thought about Jake waiting at home made my heart race faster. We hadn't spoken since the morning, and I knew he'd be wondering where I was. I drove home as quickly as I could, rehearsing an apology in my mind. But when I walked through the front door, the coldness in Jake's eyes told me no apology would suffice. "You're late," he stated flatly, his voice edged with accusation as he sat in the dimly lit living room. "I'm sorry, Jake. The meeting ran over, and my phone died. I didn't get a chance to call." I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, my voice weary. "Meeting, huh? Where should I say?" "Your little party with the bosses." His words were sharp, his eyes narrowing. I was taken aback. "What are you talking about?" "It was just a regular business meeting, Jake." "Sure it was. I bet it's all those late nights with them that got you where you are. Not your talent, just playing up to the bosses." His voice was bitter, and he took a swig from the bottle next to him. My cheeks flushed with anger and disbelief. "You think I got my promotions by what? Sleeping around? How can you even say that?" He laughed, a harsh sound that filled the room. "Oh, come on, Anita. It's obvious. Why else would they promote you, a woman, over others?" The accusation stung, and I felt a mix of hurt and fury. I earned my position with hard work and talent. It's disgusting that you think so low of me. Jake stood up abruptly, his body swaying slightly. "You're never here, always working, leaving me alone. And we don't even have kids because you're too busy with your career." His words were like slaps, each one hitting hard. "I can't believe you're blaming me for no kids. We agreed on this, Jake. My career is not an excuse for your unhappiness or failures." He stepped closer, his voice rising. "My failures?" No, Anita. They're because I married someone who cares more about her job than her husband. You've ruined everything. I tried to keep my voice calm. Jake, this isn't us. We're both upset. Maybe we should talk about this in the morning when you're sober. No, I'm done. I need to be alone. He grabbed his keys and headed toward the door. Jake, wait. But he was already gone, the door slamming behind him. I tried calling him several times, but it went straight to voicemail. Alone in the house, I wandered from room to room, each one echoing with the ghosts of earlier, happier times. I couldn't sleep. The couch was cold and unwelcoming, his accusations replaying in my mind. The morning after Jake stormed out, I dragged myself to work. My eyes were red from a sleepless night, my mind swirling with the harsh words and the slam of the door echoing in my ears. I was on autopilot, nodding and smiling where needed, but inside, I felt like I was crumbling. Mid-morning, my boss called me into his office. I straightened my blazer and tried to compose myself, wiping away the last traces of tears. Anita, I got something that might interest you, he said, his tone more upbeat than I could handle at that moment. How would you like to head our new project in Milan? It's a big opportunity, international exposure, leading a team. I thought of you immediately. Milan, Italy had always been a dream, one of those places I'd promised myself I'd visit one way or another. Under different circumstances, I would have jumped at the chance, no second thoughts. That sounds incredible, sir. I managed, a genuine smile breaking through the fog of my sadness. It's actually a dream of mine to work in Milan. Great. I knew you'd be excited. Think it over and let me know your decision. Returning home, I found Jake sitting at the kitchen table, looking sober but somber. The air between us was thick with unsaid words. I hesitated at the doorway, then decided to breach the silence. Jake, we need to talk. I was offered a major project today. It's in Milan. I began, watching his reaction closely. He looked up, his face hardening. Milan, huh? And what? You're just going to go? It's a big deal for my career, Jake. It could change everything for us, for me. I want to take it. I tried to keep my voice steady, assertive. There's no us in this, Anita. It's always about you and your career. His voice rose, a bitter edge slicing through the quiet of the kitchen. I'm still the same person, Jake. I'm still your wife. Why can't you see this as something good for both of us? I pleaded, hoping for some sliver of understanding. There is no both of us. If you choose to go to Milan, it's me or the job. Anita, decide. His ultimatum hung in the air, stark and cold. Why do you make me choose, Jake? Why can't you be happy for me? My voice cracked, frustration and pain bubbling up. Because I need to know where I stand. Either you're with me, or you're there living your dream without me. He was yelling now, his face red with anger. I took a deep breath, my mind made up, heart aching. I choose Milan. I have to do this, Jake, not just for my career, but for myself. Jake stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the tile floor. He stormed to our bedroom and came back with a stack of papers, divorce papers, slamming them down on the table. He met my eyes with cold finality. Then this is it, Anita. If you go, we're done. My heart sank as I gazed at the documents and then at him, yet something inside of me hardened. Not even for him could I give up on my aspirations. The following week was a haze. I quickly packed my luggage, signed the paperwork, and boarded the jet to Milan. Every corner of the city was a picture-perfect postcard. It was stunning. I was frequently seen on TV talking about the project, my professional demeanor belying my inner distress. Even with all the excitement, my mind kept going back to Jake and the chance of things being better. But every time I took up my phone to give him a call, I was reminded of his warning and my determination grew. It felt strange to return home after spending 2 weeks in Milan. Yet there he was, Jake, lounging on the sofa as though the previous month had been a small bump in the road. "Anita, you've returned," he said. "Come here," getting up from the couch and holding out his arms while wearing a fake smile. I stepped forward but kept my distance, since I couldn't bear to think about his threats and ultimatums anymore. "Jake, we can't act as like nothing occurred. Remember that ultimatum you gave me? Me or the position?" His voice was light as he waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, that. You know, I was just freaked out. However, I'm willing to start afresh because I've had time to reflect. If you'll agree to change, I'm willing to forgive you." My brows furrowed. "Pardon me? For precisely what purpose? For pursuing my line of work? And what modifications are you referring to?" Jake's face became a little more stern. "Anita, you know, give it go and concentrate on us. We could return to our previous state if you would simply listen to me and follow my instructions." Then it dawned on me how utterly ridiculous and manipulative his remarks were. Anger at his insolence mixed with relief that I was finally realizing the manipulation for what it was. "Jake, you can't be serious. You're expecting me to forfeit everything of my hard-earned success. I can't do that, you know that." With a tight, icy laugh, he laughed. "It was worthwhile to try, but I assumed you would understand." I guess I was mistaken. The divorce papers that he had tossed at me before I left were inside my bag when I reached inside it. "Jake, I signed these. Regarding the divorce, I believed you to be sincere. It appears that I was correct." With a faltering smile, he grabbed the papers out of my hand. "Anita, this was merely a joke. Can't you laugh at yourself?" "A jest?" I looked at him, astonished. Divorce threats were a joke. Absurd. Jake's voice rose as his face flushed. "Anita, you're making a grave error. This is something you'll regret. I will not allow you to simply leave and wreck everything. I'm not causing any damage. I'm preserving myself," I stated strongly. "You've made it apparent how I feel about you. I have to move on at this point." With a fierce voice, he towered over me. "All right. However, you're not leaving with anything. This is my home and possessions. You take off empty-handed. I'll see to it that everyone learns how you achieve success. I'll obliterate you." My heart was racing, but I responded calmly. "Try it, and it'll backfire. I have not acted improperly. I have a clear conscience." I went to our bedroom and packed my things, including my design portfolios, personal documents, and a few clothes. The rest was irrelevant. Things were replaceable, but self-respect and peace of mind were not. I headed to my lawyer's office the morning after leaving the house, a flurry of plans and feelings racing through my head. Upon entering Mr. Carter's office, I noticed that he was examining some documents with his glasses resting on the tip of his nose. With a solemn gaze, he looked up. "It's lovely to see you, Anita. Please take a seat. Tell me everything." Taking a deep breath, I began to recall the events of the past several days, including all of the nasty remarks and threats that Jake had directed at me. I said, sounding more composed than I actually was, and then he told me he'd make sure I wouldn't get a penny and would ruin my reputation. Mr. Carter listened and took notes, his brow furrowed. "Anita, we have to treat this seriously. Have you given hiring a private investigator any thought? We may discover information that will be useful to us in court." I laughed bitterly, which surprised even me. "Mr. Carter, I'm ahead of you there. A few months ago, when things really started to go south, I hired one. I wasn't comfortable with what was going on behind my back. I reached into my purse, took out a folder containing papers and pictures, and gave it to him. This is where everything is. It appears that Jake has abused people verbally as well." Mr. Carter unfolded the folder and started going through the contents very carefully. His look as he thumbed through the pictures and reports went from worried to downright shocked. This is substantial proof, Anita. He has accepted bribes in exchange for approving specific city projects." He gestured to a picture. "And this as well." He gestured to a picture of him and his helper at an unprofessional gathering. "Yes, and she has been more than just an assistant for quite some time," I said, with a mixture of relief and guilt. Mr. Carter looked at me through his glasses as he leaned back and pressed his fingers together. "Everything is changed by this. We may have extra grounds for divorce in addition to a compelling case based on adultery. This evidence, along with his threats against you, could tip the scales in your favor." The days before the trial were stressful. Jake started to call more frequently and urgently. He would swear at my name and then beg me to come back. I kept track of every voicemail and missed call that I received. When the hearing started, Mr. Carter was unyielding. "Your Honor, we have sufficient evidence here pertaining to Mr. Thompson's criminal acts relating to his position at the Natural Resources Agency, in addition to his infidelity, which has crushed my client." As Mr. Carter unfolded paper after document and photo after photo, all the while reliving his threats against me, Jake's face became white. When Jake's turn came around, he attempted to refute the allegations. "These are all unfounded charges. She's jealous and trying to destroy my career." The judge was unimpressed when she peered over the rim of her glasses. "We have a good deal of evidence in front of us, Mr. Thompson. Could you please clarify these pictures and these transactions?" His voice wavered, his customary charm crumbling beneath the weight of indisputable evidence. "I? Just going about my business. Those images are not relevant." However, it was already too late. The proof was overwhelming. The judge paused for a moment before speaking, her voice clear and powerful. "In light of the evidence, I am providing Mrs. Thompson with monetary compensation to ease the suffering brought on by the infidelity and threats. The property will be divided equally." I finally put the past behind me and pushed myself into my profession with a zeal I hadn't felt in years. My hard work eventually paid off, and I received an offer to become the creative director. It fulfilled a dream. For years, I had eyed. My closest friend Laura and I were out enjoying this new beginning at a quaint little cafe downtown when my phone chimed. My heart no longer skipped a beat when I saw Jake's name on screen. I murmured to Laura, "It's Jake," and held up the phone. She inquired, raising an eyebrow with that all too familiar, "Are you serious?" expression. "Are you going to answer it?" she said. I said, "When do you want?" Jake, giving in to my curiosity. "Hello, Anita. I've been pondering. I recognized that I had erred greatly. Can we get together? I want to discuss the possibility of beginning anew." A mixture of desperation and feebly sincere sound, Jake's voice emerged from the speaker. I couldn't resist laughing out loud. It was more of a, "Can you believe this guy?" kind of laugh than a happy one. "Make a fresh start? Assume that, Jake. Following everything." "Anita, everything has changed. I lost my job." She accepted everything, including the job, and now she refuses to return the gifts as well. In his rush, his words tumbled over one other. I'm left with nothing. I shook my head, continuing to laugh. So to be clear, you want to start again since she fired you and stole your job, right? That is quite wealthy. You don't get it, Jake. Anita? I've changed. I truly have, I begged. I've moved on, even if that's true. Now that I'm a creative director, my life is content and fulfilled even without you, I remarked, the finality in my voice reflecting the resolution in my heart. There's no place for you in it anymore. But Anita, I wish you the best. Jake, goodbye. I switched off my phone, hung up, and blocked his number. Laura had a proud smile on her face as she looked at me. Raising her wine glass in a toast, she asked, You really are over him, aren't you? Yes, exactly, I replied as I clinked her glass with mine. To new beginnings, and to being in charge of my own happiness. The following day, I felt strong and in need of company that just asked for love in return. So I made the decision to grow my small family. When I visited the neighborhood shelter, I noticed a rumpled terrier mix. Like me, he was a little older and a little rough around the edges. It felt appropriate to adopt him. I gave him the name Buddy, since I knew he would be a loyal buddy without any strings attached. Life was pleasant. It was authentic. It was mine. And there were a lot of opportunities there. Now that I had weathered the storm, I was thriving instead of merely existing.